Welcome back to the show. We talk about everything here on this show. What a great show so far, and that continues with my next guest, because we're going to be talking about finances, in particular, maybe some assumptions people make, and we're going to, in particular, talk about myths out there when it comes to your personal finance. Doug Lai is a wealth advisor and portfolio manager over there at Scotia Wealth. Welcome. It's great to have you here, Doug.
Thanks, Derek.
Let's first of all talk about the danger of making those misguided decisions. What kind of situation can we find ourselves in, Doug?
Yeah, I think this starts where, in my role, meeting lots of people, when it comes to finances in particular, some people come with preconceived notions or perceptions about finances, and sometimes they're absolutely correct.
Right.
Sometimes they can be a bit misguided, and that can lead to pitfalls in the future, where it can be detrimental to one's finances longer term in nature. So I thought today we could unravel a few of those.
I love it. Yeah, let's talk about some of those myths. You sent them along. Myth number one, a six-figure salary will automatically lead you to happiness and wealth and gumdrops and lollipops. This is a myth, obviously, right?
It is. Well, it can be true, but
right.
For some, I think their fixation is purely on the income side of things, right? They look at, okay, I'm making six figures, 100,000, 200,000, and it becomes something where they think, oh, that automatically leads to greater wealth, greater happiness in my life. I think what I encourage anyone, I speak with to think about is, okay, aside from just the income level, are there other things that you should be thinking about? So for example, in terms of your lifestyle, how do you envision that lifestyle? Are your expenses going to change over time?
Right.
Essentially, if your income is greater and your expenses increase at the very same ratio, you might not be any better off longer term in nature, right? Especially if you don't save today. So we try to bring that back to say, okay, are there other things that you need to think about long term in nature?
Yeah, it's not automatic. I'm making a six-figure income, automatic. I mean, look at the situation many people find themselves in when it comes to affordable housing, right? Prices of everything have gone up, and if you're making six figures, some people are saying, like, I can't even afford with a six-figure salary to live in a particular city. Maybe it's Ottawa, Toronto, Vancouver, whatever it might be. Myth number two, it's not worth saving if I can only contribute a small amount. And if we had more time, I'd tell you a story about somebody yesterday that I spoke to, but go ahead on this one. Yeah.
Sure. So this is from the idea that if I can only save a small amount, why don't I just kick it down the road, wait 5 years before I save larger amounts? And what ends up happening, there's two things here that I think are important. One is building good financial habits.
Right.
When you start to save earlier on, if you start saving 15, 20% of your paycheck, even at different income thresholds, that habit's really instilled.
Okay.
It's very rare that for those who are, accustomed to spending, they turn backwards and say, I can start saving on the dime and change my lifestyle on a dime.
When I turn 35, I'm going to finally start saving.
Exactly, right? or even try to catch up, for the previous years that they didn't save. So building those habits is very important. The second piece I would mention is the compounding effect. The earlier you save, and if I speak to investments briefly for a moment, if you are able to invest those funds over time, you can actually compound those investments. So it's almost like you're earning more funds and growth on whatever you invested before, plus what you grew previously. So almost like a snowball illustration, if you will.
Right.
You push it down, a snowball down a hill, and hopefully you're not the one pushing it all the way down. Gravity does a little bit of its job for you.
Yeah, maybe you can't do the 15 or 20% right away, but 5 or 10 still works, right? 2%. Right? You have to start somewhere.
Yeah, every little bit helps.
Myth number three, there's no way of knowing how much money I'll need in retirement.
So retirement can sometimes be seen as this grand, almost undefinable term, right? And it's intimidating to a lot of people. We bring our clients through a financial planning process to make sure we understand and try to capture, okay, what items do we have to be mindful of in terms of your retirement, in terms of things that are important to you, whether that be when I help my kids, my grandkids, whether it be vacations. A lot of people talk about health, long-term care, assisted living, and we actually try to factor those into a financial plan to make things more tangible so that it doesn't have to be something that you think about in the future. and
Right.
that you have to be, again, intimidated by.
And then I guess too, Doug, it's not unexpected all of a sudden, right? Because I mean, we can talk about that as much as we want. Hey, you know what? In retirement, unexpected things are going to happen. Sure, but long-term care perhaps shouldn't be unexpected.
You've
right?
got, so you can build scenarios and stress test various cases where, okay, if this, what if scenario, right? If
Right.
these expenses come into play, how does that impact my finances? So you can certainly plan around those things. And granted, things change over time too. Life happens, but it's important that your financial plan is updated to reflect that.
Okay, myth number 4, all debt is bad. I think this could be a surprise to a lot of people out there.
Yeah, well, right now, debt and specifically interest rates are obviously a hot topic. And debt, I imagine to a lot of people, is less favorable right now to have on the books if you have a big mortgage, if you have a big line of credit. That being said, debt can be a useful tool to help get you to certain places and milestones in life. So when you're speaking to a mortgage, right, maybe it is a case where you can pay that debt down over time. And sometimes even debt can be interest deductible as well.
Right.
We won't have the opportunity to get into all the minor details here, but it's not necessarily a bad thing as long as it's in check.
Doug, great pleasure sitting down with you. Thank you so much. Findyournumber.ca, by the way, to find out more information and to hook yourself up with somebody like Doug to find out what your number is. We'll be back with more right after this.